Howdy everyone, Chase here with Silencer Shop, and today we're talking about the Resilient Suppressors Putnik. The Putnik is based on the classic Russian designs, but Resilient managed to do something pretty incredible with this. They actually made it sound good, unlike the Russians. It uses a modern baffle stack and a lot of really neat features, including what they call their Tri-Axial suppressor design. What that basically means is that inside the suppressor there's traditional baffles, regular coned and clipped baffles that you might be familiar with a lot of other suppressors, but it actually takes advantage of this huge diameter by also using radial cuts throughout the sides of the silencer to allow gases to vent around the circumference. So it kind of has two chambers in there, and what that's going to allow it to do is disperse the gas inside the can really well, which keeps the sound down and allows the gas to expand before getting to atmosphere. And what's really important on AKs is it keeps the back pressure down. So despite the AK being a little bit gassier platform overall, the silencer is actually working to keep a lot of that gas out of the system. So we still would recommend pairing this with something like a KNS suppressor piston where you're able to adjust that a little bit. But the Resilient Suppressors Putnik does a great job at cutting down those gases from the muzzle end. As you'll notice, it also has these vents in the side, which is going to help disperse the gas laterally a little bit, cuts down on recoil, cuts down on flash, and it's going to come with a 24 by 1.5 millimeter direct thread. That's the common thread pitch for most Arsenal and most of the PSA AKs. If your rifle doesn't use that mount, Resilient thought ahead and put this hub mount system in there. This is your standard 1.375 by 24. It's going to accept all of the standard industry mounts. And that first blast baffle is pretty deep, so it shouldn't have any interference with any of the common muzzle brakes, flash hiders, compensators from any of the other manufacturers that you might already be familiar with or might already have their QD systems. The Putnik's going to work with them, and because AKs commonly have issues with concentric barrel threads, Resilient took a step ahead and they made these baffles progressively larger. It's a tapered bore style or progressive bore style suppressor. So that means the furthest back baffle, the blast baffle, will have a tighter bore, and then as you go down the silencer, those baffles open up ever so slightly. So if your silencer is slightly misaligned on your barrel, it won't be an issue because you actually have more clearance the further the bullet gets out of the bore of the rifle. So that helps to avoid any sort of baffle strike, end cap strike problems that you might have with some of the imported AKs that don't have perfect barrel threads. And what's really smart is Resilient actually put the engraving on the back of the silencer. Basically, you can't get an end cap strike here, which is super smart because, again, Russians don't know how to cut threads, and you can have some problems with concentricity. Here, they can just cut this off, weld on a completely new suppressor, and you're back in business. Taking advantage of that hub mount is really great for all of the AK aftermarket support that's coming out recently. On this Zastava M92, we have it set up with the JMac X37 muzzle device, so it threads directly onto the suppressor, no issues with interference. This also works with the Huxworks mounts, dead air mounts, ASR mounts that are common in those like 14 by 1, 13.5 by 1 sort of AK threads that you might have depending on which manufacturer or importer your gun is from. You won't have a problem finding mounts thanks to the hub mount system that Resilient is using on the Putnik. Really well built and super durable. It's going to use a blend of stainless steel and titanium, both super high strength materials, but the titanium is also going to help keep the weight down a little bit despite how big this thing is. What those materials allow you to do is use different calibers than you might be expecting. Of course, it's rated for 7.62 by 39 and 5.45 for both of your common AKs, but it's also rated for 5.56, 300 Blackout, 308, 6.5 Creedmoor. There's a few barrel length restrictions. Those 7.62 by 39, 5.45, 5.56, 300 Blackout, you're gonna need a barrel 8 inches or longer. And for 308 and 6.5 Creedmoor, you're gonna need a barrel 14.5 inches and longer. But the added volume of the Putnik really helps this thing sound great across all of those calibers. The Resilient Suppressors Putnik is 6.2 inches long. It weighs 20.9 ounces and has a diameter of 2.365 inches. The Putnik is a super cool silencer. If you're looking for a suppressor for your modern AK, this one is pretty tough to beat. It combines that kind of cool vibe and classic look that you get with a lot of the AKs and that I know that you guys are interested in, but you get all of the modern features and high quality design that Resilient is known for. We think you're going to love the Putnik on any of your AK rifles. If you have any questions or comments about Resilient suppressors and their new silencers, go ahead and leave those below. And as always, please subscribe to the channel and subscribe to the newsletter where you can be notified about any deals, news, and info about upcoming silencers like Resilient and other brands. Thank you guys so much for watching.